Marcus had always suspected that his luck was the kind of thing researchers should study in laboratories, preferably from behind a thick blast shield. Take, for example, his most recent stroke of brilliance, trusting the navigation software of a freighter so old it still used floppy drives for emergency data backups. That's how he ended up spiraling out of hyperspace like a drunk star whale and crash landing on a moon he couldn't pronounce, somewhere in the middle of the Perseus Fringe. The first thing he noticed after regaining consciousness was the smell, like burned ozone mixed with roasted marshmallows. The second was that half his ship had decided it was tired of being a ship and now preferred the lifestyle of a modern art installation, scattered across the clearing. The third was that his helmet HUD calmly displayed the phrase, "Pilot error likely." He muttered, "Yeah, thanks, Dr. Obvious," and peeled himself out of the pilot's chair. The landscape wasn't helping his nerves. Towering trees pulsed with inner light, as if someone had installed neon tubing in their trunks. Rivers glowed, faintly blue, humming at a frequency Marcus was pretty sure only dogs, or possibly malfunctioning microwave ovens, could hear. The air tasted sweet and electric, like licking a power cell dipped in sugar. He staggered out, clutching his toolkit, determined to start repairs before the entire galaxy showed up to laugh at him. That's when he met her. At first, he thought she was another hallucination brought on by concussion or oxygen deprivation. She stepped from the trees without a sound, tall and graceful, her long hair shimmering with flecks of silver that caught the alien starlight. Her ears, long, elegant, and unmistakably not human, tapered to fine points that twitched slightly like living antennae. Her eyes glowed faintly, a liquid gold that made Marcus instantly self-conscious about his own bloodshot pilot eyes. He tried to stand taller, look heroic, and instead tripped over his own toolkit. Wrenches spilled across the mossy ground like traitors. He went face first into the earth, muffling his groan into glowing moss that, for some reason, hummed in harmony with his pain. When he pushed himself up, cheeks flushed and moss clinging to his face like green confetti, she was smiling. Not mockingly, not cruelly, just the quiet amusement of someone watching a baby space penguin attempt flight. Marcus said eloquently. Don't mind me, just auditioning for the intergalactic comedy of errors. She tilted her head, ears twitching again. Her voice, when it came, was smooth, musical, carrying a resonance that seemed to ripple in his chest. You are human. Last I checked. Unless the crash turned me into a lizard. In which case, please tell me I'm a handsome lizard. Her lips curved. Strange. Fortunate. Perhaps both. Marcus wasn't sure if she was describing his survival or his face, but he chose optimism. He dusted off his jumpsuit, which only smeared more glowing moss across his chest, and tried to look less like a walking emergency. So, do you live around here, or are you just out for a midnight stroll through Neon Wonderland? Instead of answering directly, she stepped closer, studying him as if he were both puzzle and solution. Her long fingers brushed against his shoulder where his suit was torn, and though she didn't touch skin, he swore he felt a vibration in the air, like static before a lightning strike. You have arrived at the appointed time, she said softly. Marcus blinked. Appointed by who? Because my calendar app definitely didn't warn me about mandatory crash date with mysterious elf lady. Her ears twitched again, this time with something that might have been irritation or amusement. Our traditions are older than your stars. You were brought here because it is required. Marcus laughed nervously. Listen, I've been dragged into mandatory training seminars before, but this one's got a real ritual sacrifice vibe. I should probably check my schedule. Her gaze deepened, serious now. There is no mistake. If you wish to live here, if you wish to be more than a dying shadow and a broken machine, you must accept. Accept what? She didn't hesitate. Me? Marcus blinked again. Okay, that's vague. Do you mean accept you as in accept your cultural hospitality? Or accept you as in, I don't know, marriage, karaoke partner, interstellar tax consultant? Her golden eyes didn't waver. You must lie with me. Marcus opened, and closed his mouth a few times like a fish trying to process existential dread. He'd once been propositioned in a dive bar on Vega 7 by a woman who claimed her pet slug could predict lottery numbers. But this took the prize for most abrupt invitation of his life. Look, I'm flattered. Really. But usually on my planet, we start with coffee before jumping straight to, destiny-shaking intimacy. This is not desire, she said, her voice carrying the weight of ritual. This is tradition, a bond. Without it, my people cannot awaken what lies beneath. You were chosen. You will join, or you will perish. Marcus stared at her, then at the glowing forest, then at his wrecked ship, which had about as much chance of flying as a rock with stage fright. He sighed, rubbing his temples. So my choices are awkward alien hookup or death. Wow, Galaxy really knows how to keep things simple. She arched one long ear in something suspiciously like a smirk. You jest, but it is true. Marcus groaned. Figures. The universe finally offers me a date. It's do or die, fine print. The woman stepped closer, her presence both intimidating and strangely comforting. I am Elora. If you trust me, you will see wonders. If not, you will see nothing ever again. Marcus swallowed, staring into those golden eyes, realizing that somewhere in the madness, he believed her. He also realized his life was about to get a whole lot weirder. All right, Elora, he muttered, but I'm telling you now, if this ritual involves interpretive dance, I'm out. Her laughter rang through the glowing forest, bright and musical. And for the first time since the crash, Marcus thought maybe, just maybe, his luck had landed him somewhere extraordinary. Marcus wasn't entirely sure how he'd ended up sitting cross-legged on a patch of glowing moss, while a long-eared alien woman lectured him about destiny like she was reading from a cosmic instruction manual. One moment he was arguing with his ship's autopilot about which side of the asteroid belt was technically safer, and the next he was being told that his only chance of survival involved interspecies intimacy. Okay, he said, raising a finger like a student who'd been called on against his will. Before we start the whole ritual thing, can I just ask one tiny question? Elora regarded him with those golden eyes, patient and unreadable. You may ask. Marcus leaned forward. This tradition of yours, is there a chance it's just some elaborate prank? Like, maybe your people gather around later and laugh at the gullible human who agreed to, participate? Her ears twitched, which he was starting to realize was her version of rolling her eyes. There is no jest. The rite of joining is sacred. Through it, energy flows. Without it, the dragon remains forever beneath the earth. Right. Marcus muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. Energy flows, dragons, sacred traditions. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been on worse dates. But usually those end with someone throwing a drink in my face, not a giant reptile crawling out of the ground. Elora tilted her head, studying him. You make light of this, but the bond must be formed with trust. If you cannot see beyond your fear, the rite will fail. Marcus nodded gravely. Trust. Got it. I trust that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Does that count? Her lips curved faintly. Perhaps. She moved closer, kneeling across from him. The air between them shimmered faintly, charged, as if the very atoms were listening. Her long fingers brushed over the moss, tracing a glowing pattern that pulsed with each stroke. Circles within circles, spirals that reminded Marcus of old star charts. This is the calling sigil, she explained. When the moons rise together, we complete the joining within its light. Our essences mingle, awaken the power below. Marcus squinted at the glowing pattern. Looks kind of like a pizza. Do we get food after this? Because I could really go for food. Her brows furrowed in confusion. Pizza. He waved it off. Never mind. Just a human delicacy. Round, cheesy, life-changing. Much like what I assume you're describing. She didn't laugh, but her golden eyes softened, which he was starting to interpret as Elora's version of amusement. They sat in silence for a while, waiting for the twin moons to rise. Marcus tried to distract himself by checking his wrist comm, but of course the crash had fried it. He sighed, glancing at Elora, who seemed completely at peace, like this was just another Tuesday night ritual instead of the strangest moment of his life. "You do this often?" he asked. Her gaze flicked to him, serene but firm. "It has not been done in many generations. Few humans wander here now. Fewer still survive the landing." Marcus blinked. "Wait, so you're telling me the last guy who showed up didn't make it?" Her silence said enough. He groaned. "Great. No pressure. Just me, you, and the cosmic weight of an ancient species on my shoulders." Fantastic first impression. The moons finally aligned above them, casting silver and violet light across the forest. The sigil glowed brighter, humming faintly. Elora reached for his hand, her fingers warm, steady. "Close your eyes," she instructed. Marcus hesitated. "If I open them and find out you've tied me to a rocket or something, I'm suing." She ignored him, guiding his hand to the center of the glowing spiral. The moss vibrated beneath his palm, and suddenly his skin tingled, like plugging directly into a power conduit. His breath caught. Images flooded his mind. Not his own memories, but flashes of hers. Starfields viewed from mountain peaks. Voices chanting in a language he didn't understand, but felt in his bones. A great shape slumbering beneath the roots of the world, vast and coiled, dreaming fire. Marcus jerked, eyes flying open. "Okay, wow. That was not coffee and small talk." Elora's gaze held him steady. "The bond has begun, but it must be completed." He swallowed hard, heart hammering. "Completed how exactly?" Her long ears twitched, and for the first time she looked almost uncertain. "Through union. Physical, spiritual. The rite requires more than touch." Marcus laughed nervously, his voice cracking like a teenager's. "Right, of course. Just wanted to double-check the fine print before signing up." The forest around them seemed to lean closer, the glowing trees humming in resonance with the ritual. Marcus tried to lighten the mood, because if he didn't, his nerves would unravel completely. "So, do we at least get mood lighting?" he asked. As if in answer, the sigil flared brighter, casting them both in golden light. Elora arched one delicate brow. "The world provides." Marcus shook his head. "Figures. I finally get a date where the universe sets the mood, and I don't even have breath mints." Her laughter, clear and melodic, filled the clearing. And though the weight of destiny pressed heavily around them, Marcus found himself laughing too, caught between terror and wonder, realizing that he was already halfway into a story he couldn't possibly escape. Marcus woke up the next morning with two very distinct thoughts. First, that alien moss made for the worst mattress in the galaxy, and second, that he now had a new roommate who hatched from the ground like some kind of interstellar Kinder Egg. The dragon wasn't huge yet, about the size of a large dog, with scales that shimmered like chrome dipped in starlight, wings far too big for its body, and eyes that gleamed mischievously, like it already knew every way to ruin his life. Marcus stared at it, rubbing his temples. "All right," he muttered. "Who authorized me for dragon parenthood? Because I can barely keep a cactus alive." The dragon sneezed. A spark of fire shot across the clearing, instantly setting one of his spare socks ablaze. Elora, who sat nearby with the composure of a monk who'd just watched enlightenment happen, didn't even flinch. "It recognizes you," she said simply. "Yeah, it also recognizes my sock as fuel. Pretty sure that wasn't in the user manual." Elora's long ears twitched in mild amusement. "The bond is formed. The creature is yours now." Marcus pointed at the dragon, who was currently trying to eat his wrench. "Mine? No, let's not throw that word around so casually. It's not like I went shopping for dragons. I didn't walk into Alien Mart and say, 'Yes, I'll take the fire-breathing lizard, please, preferably one with zero house training.'" The dragon belched, then wagged its stubby tail. Elora's golden gaze softened. "He will grow quickly. With your guidance, he will become strong enough to change the fate of many." Marcus groaned. "Fantastic. I can't even change the fate of my own laundry." The dragon, as if mocking him, flapped its oversized wings and toppled backward into the glowing moss. It wriggled, stubby legs flailing until Marcus sighed and helped it upright. "Yep," he muttered. "Definitely a child of destiny. Graceful as a drunk penguin." Elora didn't laugh. Well, not openly, but her lips curved, and Marcus caught the faintest glimmer of humor. They spent the day walking toward her village. Marcus carried his battered toolkit. Elora walked with her strange, dignified grace, and the dragon waddled after them like a stubborn toddler. The forest seemed to hum with their passing, glowing vines shifting aside, rivers pulsing brighter as they approached. "You know," Marcus said, "I expected my post-crash itinerary to include panic and dying alone in a neon jungle. Raising a dragon wasn't really on the list." Elora glanced at him. "Perhaps fate writes a longer list than you imagine." Marcus sighed. "Fate's handwriting is terrible." By mid-afternoon, they stopped by a river whose surface shimmered with constellations, as if the night sky had spilled into the water. Elora knelt to drink, cupping the liquid in her hands. Marcus eyed it suspiciously. "That's safe?" he asked, because back home, drinking glowing liquid usually results in either superpowers or explosive diarrhea. Elora blinked slowly. "It sustains us." Marcus shrugged, filled his canteen, and took a cautious sip. It was sweet, fizzy, almost like soda, but with a faint metallic aftertaste that made his tongue buzz. Okay, not bad. 5 stars on Alien Yelp. The dragon, meanwhile, decided to jump headfirst into the river. Steam rose as the water hissed against its hot scales, and it splashed like a delighted child. Marcus groaned. "Perfect. First bath day, and we're already dealing with boiling water. I can see the headlines now. Human traveler accidentally invents dragon soup." Elora chuckled softly, and the sound startled Marcus more than the glowing trees ever had. He glanced at her, realizing she wasn't always as serious as she tried to appear. They camped again as night fell. The dragon curled up between them, breathing little puffs of smoke that smelled faintly like roasted marshmallows. Marcus lay back on the moss, staring at the twin moons above. "So," he said, "is this where you explain the fine print? Like, am I supposed to train this dragon to fetch? Or is there a certification program I should sign up for? Because I'm starting to feel like the universe handed me the keys to a spaceship without explaining which button fires the missiles." Elora's eyes shone in the moonlight. "You will learn. The dragon knows. You need only listen." Marcus turned his head toward the dragon, who was snoring loudly and farting little sparks of fire. "Yeah," he muttered. "Great teacher material." Still, as he closed his eyes, Marcus felt something he hadn't expected: peace. For the first time in a long while, his life wasn't just drifting between jobs, running from debts, or arguing with broken ship software. It was terrifying, absurd, and potentially deadly. But it was also alive. And lying there between a long-eared alien who laughed at his terrible jokes and a baby dragon who thought his boots were chew toys, Marcus couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, he'd stumbled into the one adventure worth crashing for. The village wasn't what Marcus expected. He'd pictured huts made of glowing vines, maybe a few ceremonial fires, and a crowd of long-eared aliens glaring at him like he'd crashed a wedding. Instead, the settlement looked more like a hybrid of spaceport and a fantasy painting. Spires of crystal that hummed with stored energy, bridges of woven light connecting tree to tree, and platforms that floated lazily above the forest floor. It was beautiful, alien, and just intimidating enough to make Marcus wish he'd worn something other than a smoke-scorched jumpsuit. The dragon trotted at his side, proudly gnawing on the handle of his wrench like it was a chew toy. Elora walked ahead, serene as always, though Marcus noticed her posture stiffen as they entered the village square. Dozens of eyes turned to them, eyes that glowed gold, silver, even pale blue. Long ears twitched in unison, like a field of antennae tuned to his every nervous breath. "Great," Marcus muttered under his breath. "An audience. Just what I needed. Maybe they'll give me a scorecard for my walking posture." One of the villagers stepped forward, a man with skin the color of dusk and a robe that shimmered like circuitry woven into fabric. His voice rang out, deep and commanding. "Elora, You return with a stranger. And more than that, with the beast awakened. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus raised a hand awkwardly. Ooh, Name's Marcus. Professional pilot, part-time crash enthusiast. Also, apparently, dragon babysitter. A child in the crowd giggled. The elder, however, didn't. He stared at Marcus like he was a malfunctioning weapon someone had carelessly left lying around. Elora bowed her head. The rite was successful. The bond is real. The dragon chose him. The elder's gaze flicked to the dragon, who chose that exact moment to sneeze fire and set Marcus's other sock ablaze. The villagers gasped. Marcus stomped the sock out, smoke curling around his ankle. Yeah, he muttered. Totally under control. The elder's expression soured. The prophecy speaks of a champion, not a fool. Marcus bristled. Hey, I'll have you know I'm a highly skilled fool. Big difference. A ripple of laughter spread through the villagers, breaking the tension. Even Elora's lips twitched. The elder sighed, clearly unimpressed, and motioned them toward a raised platform. They spent the evening in what Marcus could only describe as an alien town hall meeting mixed with a science fair. Villagers debated heatedly about the return of the dragon, some arguing that Marcus's presence was a gift from the stars, others whispering that it was a curse. Marcus, meanwhile, tried not to fall asleep on the glowing bench. At one point, a villager presented him with a bowl of glowing fruit. Marcus poked it suspiciously. So, does this stuff taste like apples, or am I about to hallucinate my high school math teacher yelling at me again? Elora leaned in. It nourishes the bond. Eat. He bit into it. Sweet juice exploded across his tongue, followed by a fizzy aftertaste that made his teeth tingle. Okay, he said with a grin. Definitely better than cafeteria food. The dragon tried to steal one, and Marcus smacked its nose lightly. Nope, you get one later. Daddy's eating. The words slipped out before he realized. He groaned. Oh no, did I just call myself Dragon Daddy? The child who giggled earlier burst out laughing, repeating, Dragon Daddy, loud enough for the whole square to hear. Marcus buried his face in his hands as the nickname spread like wildfire. Elora was smiling openly now, her composure cracking for once. But the levity didn't last. As night fell, a scout returned from the edge of the forest, breathless and grim. He spoke quickly in their language, his words sharp and urgent. Elora's face hardened. Marcus leaned toward her. What's the bad news? Please tell me it's just an overdue library book. She shook her head. The clans beyond the river have seen the dragon's light. They march here. They will demand it. Marcus exhaled slowly. Right. So, just to recap, I crash. You wrote me into an ancient ritual. I somehow hatch a dragon, and now your neighbors want to steal it. I should have just stayed in bed this morning. Elora placed a hand on his arm, steady but firm. You are part of this now. The dragon will not survive without you, nor will we. Marcus stared at her hand, then at the dragon snoring happily against his boot, little sparks puffing from its nostrils. He shook his head. Well, guess it's time for me to upgrade from Dragon Daddy to Dragon Bodyguard. Despite the looming threat, Elora laughed softly, and the sound made the entire situation feel, if not less dangerous, at least a little less impossible. The village buzzed with preparations through the night. Weapons were checked, crystal barriers tuned, scouts dispatched. Marcus tried to help, but mostly got in the way, tripping over glowing ropes, fumbling with energy tools he couldn't pronounce, and nearly electrocuting himself when he poked a floating platform out of curiosity. Careful, Elora warned, pulling him back. Relax, Marcus said, shaking off the static that made his hair stand on end. I've only destroyed one spaceship this week. Statistically, I'm due for an upswing. She gave him a look equal parts exasperation and fondness. When dawn broke, Marcus stood on the platform beside Elora, the dragon perched between them. Beyond the forest, dark shapes moved, dozens, maybe hundreds of figures approaching. The rival clans had come. Marcus took a deep breath, his stomach churning. Okay, so, any chance we can just talk this out? Maybe invite them over for glowing fruit and a movie night. Elora's ears twitched. They will not be swayed so easily. The dragon growled softly, smoke curling from its mouth. Marcus patted its head, forcing a grin. All right, buddy. Time to see if destiny offers hazard pay. The rival clans poured into the clearing like a storm of shadows, banners of woven light flickering above their heads, weapons glowing with plasma charge. Their leader stepped forward, a towering figure draped in armor that looked like carved obsidian fused with circuitry. His voice boomed across the square. The dragon belongs to us. Hand it over, or burn with it. Marcus swallowed hard, glancing down at the baby dragon at his feet. It growled, trying to sound menacing, but sounding more like a kettle about to boil. He crouched and whispered, Okay, buddy, maybe save the scary stuff for when your firepower isn't rated E for everyone. Elora stood firm beside him, her golden eyes unflinching. The right chose him. The bond is sealed. If you would take the dragon, you would have to tear it from his soul. The rival leader sneered. Then we shall. Marcus stepped forward before Elora could stop him. Hold on. Before we all start throwing lasers and lightning around, can I just point out something? I didn't exactly sign up for this whole chosen one gig. 1 week ago, my biggest problem was an autopilot with commitment issues. Now I'm apparently Dragon Daddy, and frankly, I'm still adjusting. So maybe, just maybe, we could try talking this out instead of playing Alien Civil War, Fire Edition. The rival warriors laughed. Their leader didn't. He raised his hand, and weapons powered up with a whine that made Marcus's teeth ache. All right, Marcus muttered, so much for diplomacy. The dragon suddenly leapt forward, wings flaring. Its scales lit up like a power grid surging online, and Marcus felt the bond snap taut in his chest. Energy flooded through him, hot and electric, and when he raised his hands, arcs of golden fire licked across his palms. He froze. Oh no, I've got powers. This is bad. This is very, very bad. I can't even juggle. Elora's voice cut through his panic. Trust it. Trust him. He will guide you. The rival clans charged. Plasma spears crackled. The air thickened with war cries. Marcus yelped and flung his hands forward. A wall of dragon fire erupted, curling high into the air, forcing the attackers back. The baby dragon roared, or at least squeaked aggressively, and flapped its wings. Suddenly Marcus and Elora were airborne, the dragon lifting them into the sky like a living starship. Wind tore at Marcus's hair as the ground fell away. He clung to Elora with one arm, the other hand still glowing with fire. Okay, not gonna lie, this is both the coolest and scariest Uber ride I've ever had. Below, the battle raged. The rival clans hurled spears of plasma upward, but the dragon danced between them, agile despite its awkward wings. Marcus, feeling the bond tighten, realized the creature wasn't fighting alone. He was guiding it. Together, they swooped low, fire spilling from its mouth in arcs that scorched the enemy weapons without burning flesh. Marcus laughed, half in terror, half in exhilaration. Non-lethal firepower. Eat your heart out, pacifist superheroes. The rival leader bellowed in frustration, trying to rally his forces. But the villagers of Elora's clan surged forward, emboldened by the sight of Marcus and the dragon weaving fire across the sky. The tide turned. One by one, the enemy ranks faltered, their weapons dimming, until finally they broke and retreated into the forest. Silence fell over the clearing, broken only by the hiss of cooling plasma and the dragon's triumphant chirp. Marcus slid off its back, legs shaking, hair singed at the edges. He raised his hands weakly. So, did we win? Or am I about to wake up and find out this was a fever dream caused by expired space rations? Elora smiled, truly smiled, and it nearly stopped his heart. We won. You won. The villagers erupted in cheers, chanting words Marcus didn't understand but felt deep in his bones. The dragon curled at his feet, puffing smoke in satisfaction. Marcus scratched its head. Good job, buddy. Not bad for your first fight. 10 out of 10 would fly again. The elder approached, no longer glaring, but bowing deeply. You are no fool, human. The right has not lied. The bond is true. Marcus blinked. Wow, From fool to chosen hero in one day. My resume is really shaping up. That night, the village held a feast beneath the twin moons. Marcus was given the seat of honor, which mostly meant everyone kept handing him glowing fruit and expecting speeches. He raised a cup awkwardly. "Oh yeah, so, thanks for not exiling me. Or killing me. Or worse, making me do interpretive dance. Big fan of that decision. And, here's to dragon's destiny and not dying horribly. Cheers!" The villagers cheered, Elora laughed, and the dragon stole a piece of roasted sky crab off his plate. Later, when the celebrations faded, Marcus sat with Elora by the river. The water shimmered with constellations, and the dragon snored softly beside them. "So," Marcus said, "what happens now? Do I stick around? Or do I try to fix my ship and crash somewhere else?" Elora turned to him, her long ears glowing faintly in the moonlight. "That is for you to choose. But know this, you're not the same man who fell from the sky. You carry more now. Responsibility, purpose, a bond that will not fade." Marcus stared at the dragon, then at Elora, then up at the stars. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was drifting aimlessly. He felt anchored, needed, changed. He grinned. "Yeah, guess I'll stick around. I mean, who could say no to being Dragon Daddy?" Elora groaned, but her laughter spilled into the night, bright and unrestrained. And beneath the twin moons, Marcus realized that crashing here had been the best mistake he'd ever made.